around my neck, squeezing and squeezing. No air, no breath, no way to breathe. Oh, God, my mouth was so dry. And then I was gone from the world. Chapter 68. A few moments of consciousness, then I blacked out again. Awake, asleep. Awake. The wakeful times were a nightmare of confusion, terrible pain. There was something snapping at my feet, something with fierce, sharp claws. Raccoons, possums, a rabid fox. I didn't know if I was still alive. I was surely dead for a while. Then the bugs woke me with their biting, sucking my blood, little no-see-ums biting my neck and arms, mosquitoes big as bats sucking the blood from my veins, and then rats jumped onto my legs and ran up and down my body, squeaking, snapping at my privates. Then a flash of light, so bright I saw the spackle of blood outlined on my swollen eyelids. Was I dead? Was I in a different world? In my delirium, I heard something, maybe the angels singing, or was it a dog barking? Another flash, so bright it nearly shook me. The pain in my skull increased. I felt the blood pumping through a vein in my forehead. I imagined it bursting, the blood running in a stream down my leg. I tried to make a fist. My fingers are gone. Oh, my God. Maybe not. I couldn't feel anything on that side. I couldn't taste the air. I could only feel my tongue swelling up in my mouth, choking me, and my fingers were gone. In my overheated brain, I saw Mama at her desk, in that flowing white gown she wore under her housecoat, the violet inkstand, the silver pen. Mama smiled at me. I think you'll like this poem, Ben. It's about you, baby. I sat on my little stool in the room off her bedroom that smelled like lavender and talcum powder. I saw myself sitting there as if I were a figure in a drawing, a precise, detailed sketch of Mama and me. Then the pain came swelling up through my chest, through my neck, and up into my brain. Another flash of light, and once again, nothing. Chapter 69. Morning comes to a man hanging from a rope as it comes to a man sleeping in his bed. The chatter of birds, a faint breeze, the bark of a dog. Then comes the pain again. So much blood had clotted on my eyelids and eyelashes that I couldn't open them. I breathed in short, sharp intakes of air. The fingers of my right hand wedged into the rope had kept open just enough of a passage for a trickle of air down my windpipe. It had kept me alive. Or maybe somebody had spared me. Maybe the one who said I was too tall. Maybe someone I knew. The rest of my body was pure pain, so intense, so complete, that the pain now seemed like my normal state. Look, Roy, ain't no colored man. That man white. The voice of a child. Dang, said another voice. Look like they done painted him red all over. A dog barked. Worms? The first boy yelled. I could only imagine what kind of horrible creatures were crawling on my skin. Worms! I felt something licking my foot. Then it barked. Worms! Get away from him! He dirty! Ah, Worms was the dog. It was so hot, I should surely be dead by now. I think the pain radiating from my knees was keeping me alive. It wasn't that I had a will to survive. I thought of stories from the war, wounds so horrible or amputations so unbearable that men begged their comrades to shoot them, to put them away. If I could speak, I would ask these boys to fetch a gun and shoot me in the head. I felt something sharp poking my stomach. I must have flinched or jumped a little and gave out a groan. The boys shrieked in terror. Oh, Jesus, the man alive! Run! I heard them running as fast as they could, running away from the monster. I heard Worms barking as he ran after them. I wanted to tell them to please come back and cut me down. Oh, how I wanted to lie on the ground just once more before I died. That was not to be. I couldn't just hang here like this, waiting to die. The best I could hope for was to hasten it along. I began wriggling my dead hand, trying to get it out from between the rope and my neck. Part 4. My name is Henry. Chapter 70. My name is Henry. I could barely hear. Can you hear me? I said my name's Henry. I could barely see. I could, however, tell that the person speaking to me was a woman, an ancient, bent-over colored woman. Henry, my name is Henry, she said. You in there, Mr. Corbett? Most of her teeth were missing, producing a kind of whistly lisp as she leaned closer and spoke to me. Come on now, eat this, she said. She held out a spoonful of something. I opened my mouth. She stuck it in. God, it was delicious. Black-eyed peas cooked to death, mashed to a paste. While moving the food around my sore, battered mouth, my tongue discovered the gaping hole on the left side where 2 teeth had been. Where am I? I croaked. Abraham House, Henry said. She poised another spoonful in front of my mouth. I will never forget the taste of those peas. They remain to this day the single most wonderful food I have ever encountered. I heard a familiar voice. Now would you look at Mr. Corbett, setting up and eating baby food all by himself. Moody came around from the head of the narrow cot where I lay, at the center of their parlor, in exactly the spot where Hiram's coffin had been. Perhaps I was still in the midst of my delirium, but I thought she looked happy that I was alive and awake. This is Aunt Henry who been looking after you, she said. Henry? I asked. Don't you be calling me Henrietta, she said. Moody sat on the little footstool beside my bed. You been through a pretty rough time, Mr. Corbett, she said. When they cut you down, we just knew you was dead, but Pawpaw felt a pulse on your arm, so he run and got Aunt Henry. She's the one with the healing touch. Don't make him talk now, child, Aunt Henry said. He's still wore out. Every time I opened my mouth, she stuck in more of the black-eyed pea mush that was bringing me back to life, a spoonful at a time. She been pouring soup in you with a funnel, Moody said. She done washed you and powdered you, shaved your face. When your fever went up, she sent me to the ice house for ice to put in your bed. When the cut places started to scab, she put salt water on them so they wouldn't scar. How long have I been here? 8 days since they cut you down, she said. I felt the dull, pounding ache in both knees. I remembered how those men had kicked my feet out from under me, then gone after my knees with the toes of their boots. Did they break my knees? Aunt Henry frowned. Near about, she said. But you got some hard knees, all battered up and cut up, but 'tain't broke. That's good. I managed a weak smile. It is good, Aunt Henry said. Soon as you finish us here, peas, you gonna have one more little nap, and then we gonna see if we can get you up walking. Moody said, You'd best get him up running, Aunt Henry. I shifted onto my side. What do you mean? The ones that hung you gonna find out you're alive, Moody said. Then they gonna hang you again. Chapter 71. Aunt Henry was right. My knees weren't broken, but they certainly were not happy when called upon to do their job. Armed with wobbly wooden crutches and a short glass of whiskey, I went for a late afternoon stroll between Moody and Abraham. My body ached in 100 different places, all tied together by the pain in my knees. When I bent my leg to take a step, the knee shot a white-hot arrow of pain to my hip. My neck was still raw from the rope, and the mangled fingers of my right hand were twisted and so blackish blue they might yet go gangrenous and have to come off. The sweat rolled down my back into the swollen whip welts, stinging like fire ants. But I kept on, hobbling down the muddy board walkway. I knew I was damned lucky to have survived, with no broken bones. My pain was nothing. It would be gone in a few days or weeks at the worst. I could deal with that. But inside, I felt another, more disturbing pain. I had been beaten and left for dead. I had disappeared from the world, and hardly anyone had come looking for me. I mattered to virtually no one. Meg, Elizabeth, my father, my daughters, Jacob, my childhood best friend, the entire town of Eudora. I had mostly been forgotten. A few people from town had come, good, kind folks. L.J. Stringer had actually visited a few times, but my own father hadn't come once. Abraham, I said, could I ask a favor? Ask it, he said. Can you stop by Maybelle's and see if she's got any letters for me? He shook his head. I went by this morning. Nothing there. Then he added, nothing for you from the White House either. I kept on, but the pressure of the crutches under my arms was getting to be too much to bear. Everything from my neck down was one big aching mass of bruises. Does Maybelle know what happened to me? I asked. Mr. Corbett? Everybody in Eudora knows what happened to you. I'll tell you something I believe. There's good and bad in Eudora quarters. Good and bad in the town of Eudora, probably in equal numbers. Problem is, there's cowards in both places. That's why the bullies can have their way, Mr. Corbett. Abraham, I said with a sigh, for God's sake, we've been through a good bit together. Would you please call me Ben? He patted my shoulder. All right, Ben. Thank you. You're welcome, he smiled. But now you got to call me Mr. Cross. Abraham laughed out loud at that. As I picked my way past the door of Gumbo Joe's, two old ladies looked up and waved at me. I pray for you, sir, one of them said to me. Thank you, ma'am. We went on a few more yards. The colored folks appreciate what you was trying to do, Ben, he said. We know your heart is not the same as some the rest. Moody spoke up. Yeah, and the white folks know it too. That's why they going to kill him. Chapter 72. You just plain don't need me no more. Aunt Henry said it straight out as she dabbed at the wounds on my back with one of her secret potions. Fact is, Miss Colbert, you hardly even got any scab left on you, she said. These is